The trap of comparison, why it kills your growth. One of the most dangerous things you can do to your potential is compare it to someone else's. Yet most people live in that trap every single day. It starts the moment you wake up. You grab your phone, scroll through someone else's highlight reel, and before you even get out of bed, you already feel like you're not enough. That's the trap. It doesn't scream at you, it whispers. It says, look at them. They're ahead. You're behind. It plants a seed of self-doubt. And if you don't catch it, that seed grows roots. It begins to shape the way you see yourself, the way you measure your progress, the way you define success. Comparison is subtle, but it's devastating because it takes your focus off what you can do and puts it on what someone else already did. And when your attention is on them, your energy gets scattered. You stop building your path and start walking theirs. But here's the problem. You don't know what they sacrificed. You don't know what they lost to gain what they have. You don't know their story and they don't know yours. Yet you allow their chapter 20 to make you doubt your chapter 2. It doesn't make sense, but we do it because we've been taught to believe success is a race, that if someone else wins, we lose, that if they get the job, we've failed, that if the relationship looks perfect, ours must be broken. It's a lie. Success is not a pie that gets smaller when someone else takes a slice. Your breakthrough doesn't shrink because someone else had theirs first. Their light doesn't dim yours unless you let it. Think about it. What good has comparison ever done for you? Has it made you more focused, more fulfilled? Has it brought you peace? Of course not. It brings anxiety, resentment, distraction, and worst of all, stagnation. Because the moment you start comparing, you stop improving. You become so busy watching them that you forget to work on you. And this goes deeper than just productivity. Comparison erodes your identity. You stop making choices based on your values and start mimicking the habits of someone you think is doing better. You copy routines, buy things you don't need, chase goals that don't belong to you. And little by little, you drift further from the person you were meant to become. That's the real cost, not just wasted time, wasted potential. You were given a unique set of gifts, strengths, experiences, and challenges for a reason. Nobody else has your exact combination. But when you compare, you devalue all of it. You say, what I have isn't enough. I want what they have. And in doing so, you rob the world of what only you can bring. Here's something worth remembering. The only fair comparison is between who you are and who you could be. That's it. Your goal is not to be better than them. Your goal is to be better than you were yesterday. That's progress. That's purpose. That's where fulfillment lives. And look, you'll still feel the pull, that itch to compare, to measure, to question your worth based on someone else's success. You're human, but every time that feeling shows up, you have a choice. Lean into jealousy or lean into growth. You can choose to be inspired instead of intimidated. You can look at someone else's success and say, if they can do it, so can I, instead of why not me? Because the truth is, someone else's win doesn't make you a loser. It just proves that winning is possible. Let that fuel you, not freeze you. Because comparison might be normal, but it's not necessary. And it's never productive. You don't rise by watching, you rise by working. You grow by building, you succeed by focusing inward, not outward. Every day you wake up, you're handed a blueprint that only you can follow, one that defines the life you were meant to build. But the mistake so many people make is ignoring that blueprint and chasing someone else's design. They look outward instead of inward. They treat their life like a reaction instead of a creation. But you've got to understand, you are the project. Not the car, not the house, not the career title, you. Everything you want begins with who you become, not what you acquire. The strongest foundation you will ever lay is the one beneath your character, your habits, your mindset, your values, your discipline. And you can't shortcut that. You can't outsource it. You have to build it, brick by brick, day by day, with the kind of patience most people aren't willing to develop. That's why so many people quit, because self-building isn't glamorous. It's not loud. Nobody claps for you when you read instead of party. Nobody posts your early mornings or your late nights. The work you do on yourself doesn't get applause until it produces results. And even then, people still won't see the hours you spent pouring into your own growth. They'll only see the surface, the wins, the highlight reel. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck, it was construction. That's the mindset you need. Stop thinking of yourself as a fixed product and start treating yourself as an evolving masterpiece. And like any masterpiece, it's not built in one day. You don't become strong after one workout. You don't become wise after one book. You don't become disciplined after one good decision. Growth happens in layers. Strength happens in reps. Clarity happens in the silence between the noise. When you're still, when you reflect, when you ask yourself the hard questions, and don't run from the answers. You are the project. And the moment you accept that, you take back your power, because as long as you keep thinking your life will change when something out there shifts, when the job comes, when the money arrives, when the relationship appears, you give your power away. You place your future in the hands of external events. And that's a dangerous place to live. It makes you reactive, passive, disappointed. But when you realize that the most important investment is the one you make in yourself, everything changes. You stop blaming. You stop waiting. You stop chasing things that were never meant to complete you, because now you're doing the work of completing yourself. It starts small, with daily choices, with how you speak to yourself when no one's listening, with how you show up when motivation disappears. It's the discipline to follow through on promises no one even knows you made. That's what shapes you. That's what builds trust in yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop needing the world's validation. You stop needing to be understood. You stop bending to every opinion and start standing in your own truth. That doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, building yourself is the hardest project you'll ever take on, because there's no end date, there's no final product. There's just the next level, the next layer, the next challenge that reveals another weakness and asks, will you grow through this, or will you stay the same? You see, growth isn't a goal, it's a mindset, a way of living, a decision to keep stretching when comfort calls, a refusal to settle when average looks easier. It's the daily grind of upgrading your thoughts, your focus, your discipline, and your identity. Not because you're broken, but because you're capable. You were never meant to stay the same. And if you can wake up every day and remind yourself, I am the project, you'll stop being surprised by the work it takes and start embracing it. Because when you're building yourself from the inside out, nothing can shake you. You're not chasing stability, you're creating it. One disciplined day, one painful rep, one intentional choice at a time. There's a silent lie that most people carry with them every day. The idea that if someone else wins, it somehow means you've lost. That if someone gets ahead, it must mean you're behind. It's subtle. It creeps in through envy, through insecurity, through that tiny voice in your mind that whispers, they're better than you. But that voice is not truth. That voice is not reason. That voice is fear. And fear has a terrible habit of twisting reality until we can't see clearly anymore. Let's put this plainly. Other people's success does not diminish yours. Their achievement is not your failure. Their progress is not your setback. And their moment does not cancel yours. Life isn't a game of musical chairs. There's not a limited number of spots at the table. You don't lose because they got there first. You only lose if you believe you're not allowed to rise too. But that's what comparison does. It turns celebration into bitterness. You see someone doing well, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel attacked. Instead of applauding them, you shrink. You question your timing, you question your pace, and eventually you question your worth. That's what envy does. It doesn't just poison your perspective of them, it poisons your relationship with yourself. But the truth is, we are not in the same lane. We're not built to run the same race. Your background is different. Your timing is different. Your struggles, your strengths, your starting point, all different. And because of that, your journey will look different. And that's okay. That's not a weakness. It's your power. Because your story was never meant to copy someone else's. Yeah, when you understand that, something powerful happens. You stop keeping score. You stop looking sideways. You start owning your path. And when someone else succeeds, you no longer feel threatened. You feel proof. Proof that success is real. Proof that effort works. Proof that if it can happen for them, it can happen for you. And isn't that a more powerful belief to live by? Let's be honest. Watching someone else rise can be uncomfortable, especially if you feel stuck, especially if you've been trying, grinding, doing everything right and still feel like you're falling short. And in those moments, it's easy to let resentment in, to say, why not me? But here's what you have to remember. Just because it hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean it won't. Timing is not always fair, but it is always revealing. It shows who is willing to keep going even when the spotlight isn't on them. And let's not forget, success isn't always what it looks like from the outside. You see the trophies, but not the tears. You see the finish line, but not the fight it took to cross it. And often the people you envy are carrying battles you don't even see. That person who seems ahead, they may be struggling in ways you can't imagine. So don't waste your energy envying what you don't fully understand. Instead, flip the script. Use their success as fuel, not frustration. Let it sharpen you, not shame you. When you see someone rise, remind yourself, that's evidence. That means it's possible. That means the standard has been raised. That means you can keep going with your head high, not because you're trying to outdo them, but because you know what's possible when you refuse to quit. You don't need to be the first. You don't need to be the fastest. You just need to be faithful to your path, your purpose, and your process. Someone else's progress doesn't put you in reverse, and someone else's win is not your defeat. Because the only person you're really racing is the person you were yesterday. And that's a race you can win every single day. One of the hardest truths you will ever face in life is this: you don't control what people say, what they think, or what they do. You can't control how they treat you. You can't control how they interpret your intentions. You can't force them to see your worth, value your heart, or support your growth. And trying to do so is not just exhausting, it's a direct road to disappointment, bitterness, and burnout. We spend so much of our emotional energy trying to influence things we were never meant to carry. We get caught up in the opinions of others. We obsess over their approval. We adjust ourselves to their expectations. We water ourselves down just to be accepted. And in the process, we slowly lose connection with the only thing we do have power over, ourselves. You see, the moment you try to control others, you give away your peace. You hand it over like it doesn't matter. Like your sense of balance and emotional clarity can be bargained away just to make someone like you, validate you, or finally understand you. But that's a losing game, because you can do everything right and still not be enough for someone committed to misunderstanding you. You can show up with honesty, with love, with effort, and still be judged by someone else's broken land. That's not a reflection of your failure. That's just a reminder that people see the world not as it is, but as they are. And so, the challenge, the invitation really is this: stop trying to fix everything outside of you and start mastering what's within you. Because your power was never meant to be used to change others, it was given to you to change yourself. To elevate your thinking, to discipline your emotions, to sharpen your perspective, to strengthen your character. Mastering yourself means you no longer react to chaos with chaos. You no longer let every opinion pull you in a different direction. You become grounded, not because the world gets easier, but because you become wiser. You start to pause before you speak. You learn to listen more than you respond. You choose clarity over control. And you finally understand that peace doesn't come from managing other people. It comes from managing your own mind. Think about how many times you've been frustrated. Not because of what someone did, but because of how much power you gave them to affect you. That's the real problem. Not what they said, not what they did, but how deeply you let it get under your skin. And when that happens often enough, you start living in reaction instead of intention. You're no longer steering your life, you're being dragged by it. But self-mastery changes that. It gives you the space to rise above the noise. It teaches you that not every battle is yours to fight, that not every opinion deserves your response, that not every insult needs a defense, and that maturity is not measured by how many arguments you win. Let go of the illusion that you can shape everyone's view of you. You weren't put here to be liked by everyone. You were put here to become someone worth respecting, even if that means standing alone, even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means walking away from the crowd to protect your peace. Because in the end, the world doesn't need you to control others. It needs you to lead yourself with wisdom, with discipline, with emotional integrity. The most powerful people in any room are not the loudest, not the most liked. They're the ones who are the most self-governed, the ones who refuse to be pulled off their center by chaos, criticism, or praise, the ones who know, if I can master myself, the rest will follow. There's a dangerous trap that many people fall into without even realizing it. The trap of living someone else's definition of success. The trap of chasing goals that were never truly your own. And it's easy to fall into because the world shouts so loudly about what matters. It tells you that more money means you've made it. That a certain car, a bigger house, a job title, or a follower count equals success. But here's the truth. Success that isn't personal is just performance. If you don't define success for yourself, the world will do it for you, and the world has no interest in your peace, your purpose, or your authenticity. It just wants you to fit into a box. Check the standard boxes and measure your worth by how closely you match its ideals. But the question you must ask, the question that changes everything, is this: what does success mean to me? Because until you answer that, you'll keep running in circles. You'll chase the next promotion, the next purchase, the next applause, thinking it will finally make you feel complete. But progress without meaning isn't fulfillment. It's exhaustion. And a life built on someone else's version of making it always ends in regret. So what does it mean to really make progress? It means movement in the direction that matters to you. It's not about beating anyone. It's not about being the best. It's about being better than you were yesterday. That's real growth. That's real power. When your success is no longer about looking impressive to others, but about feeling aligned with your own values, your own truth, your own journey, then you've finally taken ownership of your life. You see, progress is deeply personal. For one person, it might mean quitting a toxic job. For another, it could mean finally launching that business they've been afraid to start. For someone else, it might mean healing from something that no one else even knows they've been carrying. And for you, maybe it's setting boundaries, maybe it's reading more, maybe it's getting back to the gym, picking up the phone to mend a broken relationship, or just learning to sit with yourself in silence without needing distraction. Whatever it is, let it be yours. Because progress doesn't have to be flashy to be powerful. It doesn't need to be shared online to be real. Sometimes the most profound wins happen in private, in quiet moments where you choose discipline over comfort, courage over fear, or truth over pretending. And no one claps, no one sees, but you feel it. You feel the shift. And that shift, that's what builds a real life. But here's the key. You must protect your definition of progress from comparison. Because the moment you start measuring your path against someone else's, You start moving away from what matters. You start chasing their timeline, their milestones, their validation. And that's how people get lost. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded at the wrong thing. There is no universal timeline. There's no right age to arrive. No perfect sequence for growth. Some people peak early, others bloom late. Some rise fast, others rise quietly. But if you stay honest, if you keep doing your work, the kind that matters to you, then you're not behind, you're not off track, you're becoming. That's progress. So give yourself permission to move at your pace. Define what success looks like in your life. Is it peace? Is it freedom? Is it love or health or deep connection? Whatever it is, honor it, protect it, build toward it. Because when you define progress on your terms, you no longer need the world's applause. You give it to yourself. Your energy is your most valuable currency, not your money, not your time. It's your energy, the thoughts you think, the emotions you feed, the attention you give. Because what you focus on, you feed, and what you feed, you become. You can't plant weeds in your garden every morning and then wonder why the flowers won't grow. Life doesn't work like that. Where your attention goes, your life follows. So many people feel drained, exhausted, scattered, not because they're broken, but because they've never learned to protect their energy. They give it away without question. They invest it in drama, in meaningless conversations, in comparing themselves to others, in trying to please people who aren't even paying attention. Every scroll through social media, every argument with someone who doesn't want to understand, every moment spent replaying a hurtful memory, it all costs something. And too many of us are going spiritually bankrupt, spending on things that give us nothing back. You have to be ruthless about protecting your peace. Not because you're cold, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that not everything deserves your attention, not every situation requires your response, and not every person gets access to your inner world. Some people only come to take. They drain your light, they cloud your mind, they confuse your clarity. And if you let them stay too long, they'll have you questioning your worth, your purpose, and your direction. That's why boundaries are not just helpful, they're holy. Saying no isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's saying, I know what I need to stay whole. And sometimes that means walking away, not to hurt someone, not to make a point, but to preserve the only life you'll ever have. Because no relationship, no job, no dream is worth your soul. You also need to protect your attention from your own patterns. It's not always the world draining you. Sometimes it's the thoughts you won't let go of, the stories you keep repeating, the beliefs you refuse to challenge. How often do we spend our days focused on what's missing, on who left, on what went wrong, on why things didn't happen faster? And in doing so, we starve the parts of our life that are actually growing, because when all your attention is on lack, you miss out on the abundance right in front of you. Energy is not infinite, and attention is not free. You only get so much of it in a day, and what you do with it shapes everything: your mood, your habits, your relationships, your future. So start treating your focus like it matters, like it's not something to be given away carelessly, but something to be invested intentionally. Want to grow confidence? Then stop feeding your insecurities. Want to build peace? Then stop watering chaos. Want to become disciplined? Then stop giving your attention to every temptation, every distraction, every short-term hit of comfort that pulls you off your path. Your life doesn't change just because you want it to. It changes when you start placing your attention on things that actually move you forward. And here's what's powerful. Once you protect your energy, you start to see more clearly. You start to feel stronger. You stop reacting to every slight. You stop chasing every voice, and you begin to hear your own. The voice that says, this is who I am. This is what matters to me. This is where I'm going. That kind of clarity isn't loud, it's rooted. It's the quiet strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything because they've already chosen what they'll give their energy to. There comes a point in your journey when you must decide, will you live for applause or will you live for alignment? Will you spend your life adjusting your steps based on who's watching? Or will you lock in so deeply on your purpose that their gaze, their gossip, and even their praise no longer move you? Because the truth is, if you're always looking over your shoulder, you'll never run at full speed. If you're constantly wondering who's judging you, who's impressed, who's clapping, and who's criticizing, you'll always be tethered to their expectations. And the worst part is, you won't even realize it. You'll think you're pursuing growth, but really you're just performing. You're trying to look successful instead of becoming someone of substance. You have to become so focused that the noise fades. So focused that you don't need validation, that you don't crave permission, that you no longer worry about whether your progress is good enough by someone else's standards. That kind of focus doesn't come overnight. It comes from breaking free from the addiction to approval. Let's be honest. We're all tempted by it. We all want to be seen, to be appreciated, to be recognized. And there's nothing wrong with being acknowledged. But when your drive becomes dependent on it, you become fragile, easily swayed, quick to quit when the attention fades, when the likes slow down, when people don't understand your choices. But here's the shift. When you're focused on impact, not image, you no longer need an audience to keep going. Your fuel comes from the fire within, not the spotlight on you. The greats, the ones who change their lives, the ones who move mountains, they don't do it for the crowd. They do it because they can't not do it, because it's part of who they are, because they've locked in on something deeper than applause. They've committed to the process. You know what's dangerous about needing approval? You become easy to manipulate. Anyone who gives it can also take it. Anyone who claps can stop clapping. And if your confidence is built on their attention, it crumbles the moment they look away. But when you're focused, truly focused, you don't even notice when they leave the room. Because your eyes are on the vision, your mind is on the mission. Think about an artist deep in their work. They don't create while glancing at the door to see who's watching. They don't pause every 5 minutes to take a poll on whether the world approves. They create from the soul, fully immersed. That's what your life needs. Immersion, devotion, the ability to lose yourself in the task at hand because you believe in it that much. And something beautiful happens when you stop looking around and start looking within. You gain momentum. You stop hesitating. You stop editing yourself for other people's comfort. You stop shrinking when they look confused, or laughing when they mock your ambition, or doubting yourself because they don't understand your path. They're not supposed to. It's not their path, it's yours. The goal is not to be seen. The goal is to be centered. And when you're centered, focused, locked in on what matters, the world may or may not notice, but you'll notice. You'll feel the growth. You'll feel the peace that comes from living in alignment. And eventually the results will speak louder than your words ever could. So don't worry if they're watching. Don't worry if they're clapping. Just keep building, keep rising, keep becoming. Because when you're truly focused, you stop entertaining the audience and you start creating something real. The journey to true focus begins and ends with one simple truth. Your life is yours to live, and only you hold the power to shape it. When you stop measuring yourself by others' standards, stop trying to control what you cannot, and start mastering the one thing you truly can, yourself, you unlock a strength few ever find. Progress becomes personal, success becomes meaningful, and every step forward is a step aligned with your deepest values. Protecting your energy means protecting your future. It means choosing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. It means becoming so focused, so committed to your path that the noise of the crowd fades away. And all that's left is your purpose, your passion, your power. So stop looking outwards for validation. Stop waiting for approval. Stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. Instead, turn inward. Define success on your terms. Guard your energy fiercely. Master yourself relentlessly and become so focused on your life that you stop noticing who's watching. Because when you do this, when you truly commit to focusing on yourself, not others, you will find a freedom, a peace, and a power that can't be taken away. You will become unstoppable, and your life will become a masterpiece only you can create.